Okay, as regards the second and third fire signs, 1 Kings 18 says to the attendant, Elijah says, go up, look in the direction of the sea. Elijah first goes to the top of Mount Carmel. Then he bends down and puts his head between his knees. He does a mushroom. When you put your head between your knees, you look like a mushroom. And he kisses backside goodbye. And he says, go up and look in the direction of the sea, to the attendant. And he does that and he sees nothing. Now, going to the top of Carmel, the easiest way to see this is it's the beginning of Zoar. Carmel means garden land. So kingdom of God. Zoar, non-Adamic. Zoar is the beginning of the kingdom of God on earth. So that was 2012, Sivan 14. And also go up would be to a festival. So the first festival that we had as a prediction date was actually Ab 5, the Zoar Pentecost. And the next one was Elul 5, the late Zoar Pentecost. Both of those were prediction dates that failed. So the attendant says there's nothing at all. And then Elijah says, well, go back 7 times. So that would take you from 2012 to 2019, Ab 5 or Elul 5. And that is 7 Sabbaths, because the Pentecosts are in fact festival Sabbaths. When you've got 7 Sabbaths, the next thing you do is go to a Pentecost. So we're defining a sort of super Pentecostal pattern out of Pentecostal Sabbaths rather than weekly Sabbaths. So when you've done your 7, go back 7 times, that's 7 Sabbaths. Then you go to the next Pentecostal festival after that, which in the case of Ab would be Elul 5, but since both were no-shows, in the case of Elul 5 it's Tishri 5, which is the late Zoar Pentecost. And that is when we now believe the second fire sign will happen. But it came about on the 7th that the attendant got to say, oh look, there's a rising mushroom cloud from the sea. Now, the 7th could be the 7th month, which is Tishri. It could be the 7th year of Zoar, the 7th sacred year of Zoar. We're in it. Nisan 2019 began, Nisan 1. The 7th secular year of Zoar began Sivan 1 2019. So we're in the 7th secular year, the 7th sacred year, and the 7th month. So that's all right. However, the 7th day of the 7th month, Tishri 7, is another option. And the weekly Sabbath, Tishri 9, we thought was another option. We put it in there in the prediction. We're predicting the second fire sign and the third fire sign for Tishri 5, 7 or 9, which is October 7th to 12th. But we believe and expect the second fire sign to occur on Tishri 5, beginning because World War III begins then, and because Tishri 5 is a Pentecost, and there was a violent explosion or a violent blowing of wind at a Pentecost, at Acts 2, or report from heaven of a violent blowing of wind, actually. So that's why we think that the second fire sign is Tishri 5, and then the third fire sign is definitely Tishri 7, because of the following analogy. Solomon's temple was accepted by God by fire and cloud. The fire consumed the bull and the cloud filled the sanctuary on the 7th day of the 7th month of 1026, which was the 7th year of construction. So 777 is when Solomon's temple was accepted. Likewise, this year, 2019, Tishri 7 is the 7th day of the 7th month of the 7th sacred year of Zoar, and it's in the 7th secular year of Zoar. So it's 777 Zoar sacred. So it's the exact antitype of Solomon's temple acceptance. And our one will be by fire and cloud, but it won't be consuming a bull because we're not sacrificing a bull, and it won't be filling the temple with smoke. Actually, it might be, because the temple is of the saints. Actually, that's the thought. The temple is of the saints, and we will be filled with smoke because we'll all be in the ark watching this, or a lot of us will anyway. So here's the cute thing. The attendant go up. It could mean to a festival. It could mean to the ark. And it says, look in the direction of the sea. Now that's not something you can do by watching your TV screen. That's a direction to the cameraman, not to the spectator. You have to be the cameraman if he's telling you what direction to point your camera in. In other words, we will physically see these bombs go off. And I can't see a nuclear bomb going off in Dartford from my house in Golders Green. And neither can I see one in Manhattan from that house. And the nearest Lord's Witness we have to Manhattan is in Philadelphia, so he ain't going to see it. So the only way we're going to see this thing, the only way the attendant is going to be in a position to look in the direction of the sea and see this thing happening, because he says, look, there's a rising cloud like a man's palm, describing what he's seen physically, not on the goggle box, not in a picture on the in a newspaper, because God wouldn't direct him look in the direction of the sea, say look at the paper or look at the TV screen. He doesn't say that. He directs him because he's the cameraman. So it's a proof that we'll be in the ark. So we go up into the ark and we see it, because the whole point of the ark is to show us what man's doing whilst protecting us from it. It's supposed to be a lesson, this. Everything God does is a lesson, though it's one hell of a lesson. And I wish we didn't have to do it, but that's how hard the lesson is. I guess it's better to have one nuclear war and learn never to do it again than indefinitely have a series of wars and never stop war. Maybe. I don't know, I can't make that call, that's God's call. But perhaps we'll understand it once we see it from the ark. Or even if we don't, and we end up in hell, perhaps we'll understand it. All of us will one day understand it, because we're rational beings. And we're good at understanding things if we see them enough times. So, there's one thing. Right, now the next thing is, this church has to be kick-started at a Zoar Pentecost. There is only one more of these this year, which is the late Zoar Pentecost, which is Tishri 5. And it gets kick-started by a sign, and that sign is second fire sign. And the next Zoar Pentecost after that is 2020 Ab 5, which is 9 days before Zoar ends, and 2 months before Adam's finished. So that can't be it. So you'd have to collect everybody, including the saints and all the citizens and the priests, in no time at all. I mean, the time scale is ludicrously fast anyway. So that's not the answer. So we have to start at the Zoar Pentecost in 4 days' time. Let me just say some technical stuff about Laodicea. We got the chronology of Laodicea wrong. 12 years of spying, from 2003 Heshvan 21, when they were installed to feed the 1NC reserves. 12 years of spying instruction to 2015 Heshvan 2021. Then 40 days of spying, from Heshvan 21 to Chislev 30 2015. Then they get the wilderness penalty for 14 months, from Tebeth 1 to Nisan 30 2019. Then they're appointed to True Church ER 20. If you sentence count the report that they made back to Moses of the spies, it counts as 104 times, 3.5 months less 1 day. And that takes you from Heshvan 21 to Adar 5. That is when they lost their constant feature. Now that's really, really important, because 1290 days after that is when the abomination causes desolation is placed. And 1290 days after 2015 Adar 5, when they lost their constant feature, 104 days of sentence count of Numbers 13, 25 to 27 or something. The report back to Moses by the spies. They're all multiples of 12, because 12 spies, plus a few other bits and pieces. That takes you to Tishri 5, 2019, which is the abomination causing desolation to mankind. The nuclear bomb that sets off World War III. Then you count 1335 days, which is an extra 1.5 months, takes you to Heshvan 20. And whoever reaches the end of that blessed happiness, that's when we ascend Jacob's ladder, go up the 30-day height of the ark into heaven. We start that at the 2NC Pentecost on Heshvan 21. We finish that journey on Chislev 21. Now the next thing is that what I didn't realise or had forgotten is that the near bank in Daniel 12 is always equal to the far bank before the baptism of a church that becomes false. So the period of having no water baptism, the near bank of Laodicea, ran from the end of the 3EC baptism of the Watchtower 2001 Heshvan 14 to the beginning of the second part, second presence, which was the first 1NC reserve to be baptised into Laodicea 2006 ER 14, 4.5 times. And what that means is the end of Laodicea, after they've lost their baptism, will be also 4.5 times. And we know they lost their baptism at the end of the second part, the second presence, 2013 Chislev 11, and so you count 4.5 years after that, you get 2018 Sivan 11. That's when they became a false church. They didn't become a false church when they got a spying penalty, because the Watchtower had a 40-year spying penalty, and throughout most of that time they were a true church. So Laodicea became a false church last year on Sivan 11, precisely a year before the third presence began, which is some kind of a time of, I don't know, calamity or something or other for them. So we've got a much better view of the chronology of Laodicea now, which I haven't yet put on the site, but I'll do that later tonight. So that's it. One more thing I should say. For 30 years in Egypt, you take it a month for a day, in the case of the Watchtower. They became Egypt when they became a fourth church, 2005 ER 14. 430 years a month for a day is 14 years, 4 months. You add that to 2005 ER 14, you get 2019 Elul 14. And that is when the last saint left the watchtower for Laodicea. They're all out, they're all in Laodicea. Now, but Laodicea is merely a shuttlecraft or a roadside cafe on the way to Zoar. It's the Sinai Peninsula between Egypt and Arabia. Zoar is Arabia, Watchtower is Egypt, and Laodicea is the Sinai. So the Sinai provides an easy path for Jehovah's Witnesses to come to Zoar. They wouldn't have come without it. They haven't come yet. Okay.